Review a SmackDown. 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 Review a SmackDown.
Hello and welcome to Review a SmackDown. I am John Pollock, looking straight at Wai Ting. How are you, Wai?
Wow, looking straight at you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
I'm definitely not ready for this
weird.
at all. I don't like making eye contact with many people.
An hour?
It's going to be a lengthy one.
So let's do
but
this.
This was night two at the O2 Arena. Night two. WWE SmackDown. Well, let's get into it. First of all, I'm going to say much better crowd reactions on Tuesday than Monday. I don't think there's any debate.
At least the way it came across on camera. I think it's still very much in question whether or not what we heard on TV on Monday night was the actual way it sounded in the room. But I will definitely say it sounded different on Tuesday.
Yeah, it sounded different. Randy Orton started the show. He is back. He has survived the House of Horrors. And Tom Phillips cites Jinder Mahal absconding Randy's title. So this wasn't just some word that Michael Cole pulled out of nowhere to describe this. This is clearly the term they have been told to use instead of stealing.
Absconding.
Absconding.
I don't even know what that really means. I mean, stealing, obviously, but like a fancier form of stealing?
It's obvious that's your classic Vinceism. Instead of saying that he stole the title, he absconded the title.
That's good. That's great. They're teaching people how to, new words. I've never used that word in a sentence before. Now I can start.
Can you imagine putting together a show like this, Wai? And that is a priority. That's something that comes up that we have to sit down and a memo to all of our announcers. He did not steal the title. It was absconded.
I'd love to see that rundown and that note in particular.
So I guess what's the opposite of of absconding? Like, what did Randy do in reclaiming his title?
Should I look it up?
Well, look up a fancy word for retrieval or
Antonyms. God, this is boring, isn't it? Nothing that fancy.
Unabsconded.
Yeah.
Orton says he didn't lose at Payback because of Bray Wyatt or that damn refrigerator, but because of Jinder Mahal sticking his nose where it didn't belong.
That's the match I want to see.
Randy versus a fridge?
Yeah.
And Braun versus an ambulance.
Wow.
Those could be your next two gimmick pay-per-views.
Extreme Rules.
Jinder interrupts with the Singh brothers. I'm going to say this. I thought the blocking of this was outstanding because Jinder stands in front of the Singh brothers who look so tiny behind Jinder. And they create this space like a triangle with Jinder at the front. And I will give WWE credit. That doesn't just happen by chance. That is a blocking decision. And it looked like he looked really impressive here.
Sure.
This is a great visual.
Yeah.
We use the Singh brothers for what they are. These tiny little, like that's what they're presented as. Like these little, I don't know what the term would be. I don't want to say muscle because that's kind of the opposite of what they're being used for.
Yeah. I'm sure that's definitely part of the reason why. That's why I think it's such a brilliant combination to put the Bollywood boys with Jinder Mahal. Is because it gives something for them to do. I think that the two of them are actually very good in this role.
And having two muscle heads next to Jinder diminishes all of Jinder's dieting that he's done.
Yeah, of course. It emphasizes the size of Jinder.
They don't hinder Jinder.
Let's put an end to that right now. I'm so done with that line. Let's end it, please.
That's where my thoughts on Jinder largely come to an end on this show.
Okay.
He showed off his promotional pictures taken with the title, including wardrobe changes, and says that he is going to take the title back to his people. He's going to wear it at the Taj Mahal. A statue in his likeness will be erected, and it will be the new age of the Maharaja, and then goes to speak in Punjabi, but before he can do so, Kevin Owens interrupts him. Owens says no one cares about the House of Horrors, or India, or England either. The last one generating boos from the audience. He says he ended Chris Jericho's career. There's no more list because of him. Jericho couldn't even last 2 hours on SmackDown, and next he's going to end the career of AJ Styles. Then he's going to come after the WWE title to become the face of the WWE, and then repeats this in French. Mm-hmm. He did get to speak his native language, unlike Jinder. So AJ comes out. Got a pretty good reaction here. Says Jericho is no AJ Styles, but neither is Owens. And Owens will never be the face of SmackDown Live, the house that he built. The Price is Right continued. Our next contestant was Baron Corbin, who came on down, back from suspension. He went to speak, and he was jumped from behind by Sami Zayn, sent him into the ring. The Singh brothers saved Mahal from a draping DDT. They were singing Olay, and the segment ended with Orton's theme. And our main event would be a 6-man tag.
That's right.
As we paraded everyone out.
I thought it was a good opening segment. It didn't feel too long. I love that Kevin Owens in this segment did not feel like a subordinate to the WWE champion. It felt like he was on the same level as the WWE champion.
I'd go one further way. He felt like the top champion. As I've said, he feels like the top guy on this company. I think he feels above the champion at this point to me. And certainly above Jinder Mahal.
I love the idea that Owens has his sights set on the WWE title. And that, being U.S. champion, I feel like it's good, but he doesn't get away from the fact that he knows in his mind that he is a main eventer and that he deserves not to just be the face of whatever, the U.S., but to be the face
That's not enough.
To be the face of the universe.
Yes.
Actually, this is the world and not the universe.
This is not
Never mind.
The universe.
But I think he should outright state that it's a goal of his to become the double champion, with the U.S. and the WWE title. And it kind of like makes the U.S. title even that much more special. As, it's good that it's its own thing, but let's say it makes sense why an AJ Styles would want to go for the U.S. title if his ultimate goal is to get all the belts,
Tamina, Carmella, and James Ellsworth were in the ring. Ellsworth referred to the fans as damn plunkers. And to close their mouths so they don't have to see their teeth. Guess he picked up his British Stereotypes book that was published in 1984. And Carmella refers to herself as an American princess and then introduces Natalya. Natalya comes out, and then Naomi comes out. London, make some bloody noise, and is going to turn the O2 into a real lituation, and introduces Becky Lynch.
Why did you smirk as you said those lines? What's wrong with those lines?
Because
you wouldn't say
God
that?
bless Naomi. I think she can pull off quite a lot that the average babyface would fail with. This was not examples of that.
I think she of all the people to say it, like I think her character is one that can be scripted with things like that.
I agree.
Feel the glow. Lituation doesn't even sound that odd when it's coming from somebody like her who, and it's not a slight. In fact, it's a compliment to say that she's a character that's, I think, still trying to like show who she is to the audience. And she's like a cheerleader. She is. She plays basically a cheerleader, and like cheerleaders or hype men, at sports events or at rap concerts or DJs will say things like this.
Maybe she needs her own talking segment for this kind of stuff.
What do you mean?
The lituation room. Natalya and Becky Lynch had a singles match. Charlotte came out before the bell rung and says she doesn't need someone to introduce her because she doesn't need an introduction, but did need a microphone to make this statement about that. Charlotte's in this weird role where we thought that first she came over from SmackDown and was kind of teasing babyface turn, then was the heel. Then last week felt closer to a babyface turn, and now she's kind of in this middle role.
Which she should be, I argue. I don't think you should, especially when you're Charlotte, who was the top heel on Raw, you shouldn't be making a complete transition in 1 week. She's kind of in a gray area right now where she's a reluctant partner, it seems. At least, though, in the match, it felt like she was almost too babyface, She was cheering Becky on, and this is somebody you've turned on multiple times, so I feel like Charlotte maybe should have looked a little bit more reluctant, at least earlier on.
Yeah, I just found this promo, especially coming off of last week, it just felt, to me, it was just kind of awkward. You almost had her playing.
What did she do last week?
Well, last week was everything with Becky aligning with them, and maybe I'm thinking more 2 weeks ago when the welcoming committee screwed up her title match and everything.
But it doesn't mean Charlotte likes Becky or Naomi. Ultimately, she still wants to beat Naomi for the title.
Yeah, I'm just talking about this individual promo. This wasn't even so much geared towards Becky or not. It's just Charlotte almost felt like she was one role last week and then comes out with this promo this week. I think the audience didn't know how to react to her either. I mean, she was coming out here as kind of Becky's backup. The crowd's chanting for Becky. Natalya tripped her on the apron, suplexed her on the floor. The crowd was singing here at one point. There were a pair of clotheslines here. Did you see these clotheslines to Natalya?
Yep.
This was shockingly ill-timed. I actually, because I was watching this online and thought that my computer had skipped, so I rewatched it. And the first one, Natalya went down early, so they did a second one where she went down even earlier. Like they were the most phantom clotheslines you've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, Naomi shoved down Tamina, and then Charlotte pulled Naomi away as Natalya yanks Becky off the turnbuckle, getting the win in 3:04, and then the two babyfaces and Charlotte are in the ring. Naomi's arguing. Charlotte is in the middle here. Becky's frustrated, and that's how the segment ended.
Yeah. I know these are really just like supposed to be quick TV matches, but I find these finishes almost a little too lazy, even for quick 3-minute matches with a distraction finish. It was just like...
This was almost identical to Alexa and Mickey. The same pull off the ropes. Instead, it was a punch on Monday. Here it was grabbing her by the leg.
Becky is so distracted, and she's standing on the second rope that this person who can usually, it requires so much to beat her at a WrestleMania. In this show, a trip off the second rope is enough for a 3 count. And
someone should do a frame-by-frame comparison of the two matches. They were shockingly similar when you think about it.
It's a 3-minute match, and it's whatever, yes, but I still kind of ask for a little bit more creativity, even in your distraction finishes for a TV show.
Another Lana vignette, no date of her arrival. Charlotte and Naomi were backstage, and Charlotte says that there is no excuse for Becky losing. Becky gets in the middle of them, and Naomi threatens to snatch Charlotte bald. And Charlotte responded, "What? Are you going to glow on me?" It reminded me of one time when Uriah Faber and Dominic Cruz were building up their fight, and Dominic Cruz said something to Uriah, and Uriah responded, "Yeah, what are you going to do? Decision me to death?"
It's the same thing. Exact same thing. Yeah.
Becky says that the welcoming committee have made a bond against them, and they're not going to get anywhere by being at each other's throats, and they need to out-bond their bond. So she proposes the 3 of them bond and have a 6-woman tag at Backlash. Mm-hmm. Let the bondage jokes begin. But yeah, it looks as though we are not going to get that title match and then a separate tag, but rather just all the women together, which is fine. That's what they're building towards, and they need to preserve their title matches anyway.
They have a whole year, presumably, with this crew, and only so many main event matches you can make with this combination, so I have no problem at all putting a 6-woman tag match on a pay-per-view.
Are you ready to bond? Like super glue, Naomi said. And then Charlotte calls herself the greatest ever at bonding, and then puts her hand in the middle, and they agree to bond.
I've got to see vignettes now. I want to see these 3, try to go out on a coffee date, and it'd be super awkward between Naomi and Charlotte, and Becky's in the middle trying to get them, the 2 of them, to talk, and just a montage, musical montage, you're my best friend,
And then Carmella interrupts, stating, "None of you have the key that I do," and then, stealing Cesaro's entrance, comes Bond, James Ellsworth Bond.
Yes, they can do all that. Yes, thank you. You're just hunting. You're just hunting for all these this morning. You're always hunting.
Yeah. They give me lots of creative terrain to navigate. Then we had a Fashion Files, the special London unit at the O2 Arena, which the text even stated right now it was occurring. Fandango and Tyler were dressed up as Sherlock Holmes and Watson. I thought it was hilarious that they had a photo of Davy Boy Smith. You speak of puns, a fashion faux pas. Mm-hmm. You are not as impressed. There was paint all over the floor and doors, and they hear groans inside of a room. And Tyler yells, "Enough! Leave the women alone." Was I wrong here? Was that not the dialogue?
I mean, you might have been right. I don't know.
Well,
I'm sure it was a joke in reference to something.
I guess so. There were these groans going on inside. But instead, it was the Ascension just doing Ascension things.
They're getting ready for their match.
Yeah. Which, I guess, was this supposed to be the setup to the match, or the match had already been signed?
No, this was the setup, I guess. Or
so what were the Ascension getting ready for? Just to regularly ascend?
In storyline, were they signed? I don't know. I guess. I don't think it matters.
Tyler ended, "I'm getting too old for this shirt."
Mm-hmm. I don't think these are very funny, but I think they at least keep my attention. And I know a lot of people do find them funny. So, I can't. Overall, I would say they're definitely a positive for this team, that gives them some identity versus before where they had none.
I feel these segments are, especially this week, gets a bit of a bell curve because I think people do. I think they do see things in Breeze and Fandango. They want to see them ascend.
Yeah.
Figuratively rather than just literally in the ring with Victor and Connor. Luke Harper took on Eric Rowan. Rowan attacked and tossed Harper to the floor, splashed him in the corner, and then Harper responded with a drop kick. This is when we heard some very audible Fire Bradshaw chants, which were apparently chanted throughout the night.
Yeah, there's a video online of Bradshaw making his entrance at the beginning of the show.
Oh, okay. And was
dark and
was
those
he swarmed
were,
with them?
Yeah.
Did he sell them at all?
I didn't notice. I couldn't see. It was a fan camera.
There was a reverse elbow from Harper on the apron. Rowan ducked a discus clothesline. There was a spinning side slam to Rowan for 2. Rowan got up, hit a Uranagi, and then he grabbed his mask and talked to the mask. The referee took the mask away, and Rowan had the power instilled within his thumb, which was delivered into the eye of Harper. And then he lifted him up and twirled him into a slam and pinned him in 416.
Yeah. There's really no supernatural element to the character anymore. It was just a regular distraction finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the announcers tried to, that's what it was presented as, and then Phillips was trying.
He got power from a mask?
Phillips was trying to state that he was speaking to the mask.
Yeah.
As though he was drawing something from it.
I just thought it was him trying to get the referee to be distracted so that he could deliver a thumb to the eye. But again, I thought between tonight and Monday, I've been really disappointed by all the distraction finishes and also the lack of creativity in those distraction finishes. This was 2 matches in a row.
Yeah, you're right. I thought these two were going out there to try and have as good a match as they could, but it was 4 minutes. The crowd wasn't into this.
There's no real storyline attached to it. I mean, both of them are pretty much in the same position where...
languishing.
Yeah, without Bray Wyatt, a character that they both really had their, entire identities attached to. You take away Bray, Luke Harper's kind of left without, getting that revenge on Bray that I think was supposed to be set up for him this entire time. Eric Rowan makes his return 1 week, is attached to Bray for a couple weeks, and now he's lost too. So both of them are at least in this match, not really giving the audience much reason to care.
Dolph Ziggler comes out. He puts over all of his accolades. He's headlined pay-per-views. He is a movie star.
He was in what? What was that movie called? The Countdown. Yes.
Yeah, movie star.
Mm-hmm. His whole line is that it feels like it's been 8 years that I've been doing this. Feels like 12.
Which was a nice ode to his caddy gimmick.
And the Spirit Squad.
And the Spirit Squad as well, yes. So he says that Nakamura hasn't even had a match yet. So the crowd chants NXT, and Ziggler says that's going to be edited out.
Which they didn't, obviously.
Then they start chanting for Nakamura, and Ziggler calls him out. Nakamura makes his entrance, enters the ring. Ziggler tells him, enough with the theatrics, which I can only imagine is a line Ziggler has heard from numerous agents over the years from some of his selling. Yeah. Nakamura tells him, shut up, with the mouth guard again inserted.
I wonder why he decides to speak with the mouth guard if it's intentional. If it's not intentional, the fact that he still continues to use it suggests that, Vince and whoever are okay and enjoy the fact that he's speaking with the mouth guard. But I feel like he's already, he already has an accent. It's already kind of tougher than usual to hear him speak something. To speak with a mouth guard, he tried to say, get a referee here. It got zero reaction, and I'm not trying to be offensive. It's because nobody really understood what he said.
Did you have any theory as well on the graphic going to breakaway and the font selection?
It was interesting.
They've also changed it on the entrance. His entrance also has that same font instead of the block letters they had in NXT.
I saw somebody on Twitter suggest that it might be a reference to the Thrasher magazine.
No.
Maybe, it's possible.
He's not a skateboarder.
I highly doubt it. Yeah, he's really not. So,
There's plenty of surfing magazine. No one's giving that level of
font's
thought
not Asian
to the
enough.
font.
What's so bad with the T-shirt that they have? I think it's a perfectly fine font. The one that with the red on black.
I like the block letters, and it stood out. Mm-hmm. Anyway, my worry is that it's not as though you can't understand what he's saying, even with the mouth guard in.
Yeah.
But I feel my own neuroses is going to kick in, that it's going to be like when someone's eating and talking.
Oh, you're just going to hate it.
It's just going to become irritating to hear someone talk with something impeding their...
Maybe it'll put you to sleep because you're so used to wearing mouth guards when you go to bed.
Man, that would be a weird habit. I'm going to have to read your book. So Nakamura...
Maybe he's a teeth grinder. That's why he wears a mouth guard.
What, in like verbal confrontations? He grinds his
24 hours a day.
I bet you he has flat molars.
Yeah, probably.
He says to get a referee, he's going to show Ziggler now. And the crowd actually, God bless them, thought they were going to get a match between these two. And then Ziggler just says, nope. We will do it when he says so. He's going to expose Nakamura for the fraud he is at Backlash. This was another case of the left hand and the right hand, because WWE.com announced this match for Backlash back on like May 1st.
Sure.
But this was presented as this was the official setup of the match.
Same with Dean Ambrose potentially being the person to name Great Balls of Fire when it's already been out there.
It's almost as though the web doesn't exist. So
anyway, I thought the segment itself I enjoyed. I thought Dolph was great here. He's kind of doing this feud by himself, at least on the microphone,
I think he's doing it the right way.
Absolutely.
To be a heel. Against Shinsuke Nakamura.
His whole role is to build anticipation for Shinsuke Nakamura, and he did a great job simply building to that entrance, making it a big deal, making you really want to see this entrance. And I mean, for Nakamura at this point, the entrance is really half of the appeal of the character. And to really set that up and really build that up so that the audience can chant along to that song is like half the work, and I thought Dolph did a great job.
He threw his jacket at Nakamura and then just attacked him and got onto his back and even got his hooks in way, but then Nakamura flipped him off, kneed him in the ribs, and sent Ziggler to the floor.
Mm-hmm. I love the way they're building Nakamura, really like maximizing his full potential and treating him like a special attraction, that you have to order the network to see.
Yeah. And I'll go so far as to say, I really hope that you get, because I feel that if you get a solid reaction, they're in a great venue in Chicago, and I don't know if you're going to get the level of when he did the NXT debut against Sami Zayn, but if you can get something close to that, I think he'll be set. Yep. And a bad reaction, which I don't think you'll get, but if it were subdued, I think then it'll be tougher, because I don't know if they're...
I don't think it'll be subdued at all, not in Chicago.
Hopefully not, but then we go backstage. Where do you see that match going on the card? What do you see closing Backlash? We were chatting about this Sunday.
It won't be this match. I could see.
There's an argument to put this last. I don't think it will either.
No, I don't think it will. Not Dolph Ziggler. I mean, if it was Nakamura going for the title, even Nakamura.
You could argue Nakamura is the guy who you would hope is going to be the star of that show. This show is being built around him more so than any of the other matches.
Definitely, but it's also not a match with any high stakes. It's him versus Dolph Ziggler. And
doesn't that make him the high stakes?
No.
Like you're positioning him as your top guy going off the show.
Yeah, I just don't think it'll even be the match. I mean, he'll get maybe one of the biggest reactions on the show. I just don't see it ending the show. I could see Orton Mahal, that to me would be the obvious one, or AJ and Owens. But I personally see the World Championship going on last.
Sami Zayn was with Orton and AJ backstage doing his rambling spiel where he's using his hands a lot, telling them to visualize. Like, this is clearly how he puts a match together that annoys everybody, and they're just transferring this to his promos. And closes his eyes when he tells them to envision this.
Yeah, visualize it. Visualize it.
And they're gone when he opens them. So he's the goof on SmackDown.
Yeah. He's the goof backstage, obviously. You know?
So be careful how you act in the back.
Pretty much, yeah.
Then there was a New Day promo, which at least they added something here. It was done in the style of an 8-bit video game with the graphics of the different SmackDown tag teams.
Shit, I thought TJP was going to come out.
Yeah. And identifying all the teams as booty.
Mm-hmm. I liked it.
The Ascension versus Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Quick match. There was a build to a hot tag for Tyler. He then accidentally knocked Fandango off the apron to the floor. There was a running Enziguri to Connor, and then Fandango returned with the last dance, the leg drop off the top to Victor, that I think Mick Foley needs to just call up Fandango and tell him about, hip replacement surgery sucks, dude. Mm-hmm. And they won in 2:37.
I'm sure he's just probably at this point grateful that he gets to do it on TV. He's been doing it probably on house shows and on main event matches for no audience. So Breezango got a good reaction, I think largely because Fandango's music is still so over to this UK audience. But also the vignettes obviously are helping as well. I think working a more babyface style is a huge benefit to Breezango, particularly Tyler Breeze, who gets to do a lot more of his super kicking to the crowd's delight. And we talk about their characters so much, but these two are actually great wrestlers. And if they can figure out a great formula for their matches, or at least a series of moves that can really get them over, and both of them are so capable of it, I think the team could have that much more of a chance of getting over.
They'll have a good match with the Usos, and they'll get 10 minutes at the pay-per-view, maybe a bit more.
They need to have a good match. I mean, for Breezango's sake, for both of their sakes.
Yeah. The Usos come out, and it was all set up with Jimmy doing lines, ending with Jay stating 12 days for when the match is going to take place. And Jay, at one point, is nearly losing it, laughing, because Jimmy just keeps going. This was almost this was almost like
Enzo and
the
Cass.
What segment.
Or Enzo and Cass.
Or Enzo and Cass, sure. Jimmy's also grown out a beard.
Yes. I think these two have been working on this shtick with their promos for several months now. They kind of debuted it several months back against American Alpha.
Yeah.
The same pattern of their promo. And here, I thought they got to do it a bit more cleanly on a stage, and I liked it a lot. Like, I thought it showed their personalities, and I thought it showed them that these guys actually do have charisma. And it reminded me, of almost the Briscoes, but except like kind of their own version of it. And I like it.
Mark and Jay, not Jerry and Jack.
No, yeah, Jerry and Jack.
Yeah. All right.
Same look, everything.
Yeah, their car repair shop. These are the commercials. Brian Kendrick did a 205 Live promo. He says he's been impressed with Akira Tozawa, but we'll show him tonight who teaches who, and school is back in session. I can't wait till the summer. When school's done. I don't feel we've had a break.
Do you realize that thing started, or at least Akira Tozawa debuted in February 6th?
Oh, my God.
It's the week right after he did the Brian Kendrick thing. So
we're at 4 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
March, April, May, 3 months.
3 months.
Bad
3
math.
months. 3 months. Still no excuse.
It's like the Dolph Ziggler feels like 4. Mojo Rawley, this segment. He was taking these children on a tour backstage, and he sits down to tell them the story of the 8th wonder of the world. Mm-hmm. Not 9th. He wasn't going to talk about China. And his legendary battle with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3. I almost thought we were going to get a dream sequence with footage of Andre. That's what this felt like.
Yeah, why not?
Felt like a children's story. And then he talks about a boy that was different and bullied when he was younger. And he took those differences and ended up making them strengths and used it as motivation to become a legend, and reveals the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal trophy that he won. And then one of the children kicks Mojo in the shin, and he momentarily gets mad and then says, yeah, you're right, that's kind of funny. Let's continue with the tour. What the hell was this? What the hell was this? Who in God's name came up with this, and what the hell was the point of this?
I would love to just hear you like recap life, because I think you have such a great talent for
This isn't life, White. This is something so far out of life.
Like, I didn't even laugh out loud when I was watching this, but to hear you repeat
bullshit. You thought this was hilarious. Just a run-of-the-mill segment? This child kicking Mojo Rawley in the shin?
I didn't think that
was the child supposed to represent a bully, and Mojo is being the bigger man?
I don't exactly know what was up with the kid kicking him, other than the fact to show that Rawley is just such a nice guy. He's gonna let this slide. He's like, oh, he sees the humor in all things. But this is their way of pushing Mojo post WrestleMania Andre the Giant Battle Royal win.
This was the push.
I mean, obviously, in years past, the criticism is that nobody makes a big deal out of winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. So this year, they decide to put all the focus on Andre. You know, why is Mojo so proud that he won this thing? Well, because Andre, I guess, was such an inspiration in his life. And I'm sure, you know, doing the documentary, being involved with that probably has something to do with it as well. But yeah, it's Mojo trying to, I guess, show that he's a tutor to children, you know? It's the character. The kicking, I can't exactly explain.
It was so wild. Like, I just had no reaction to this.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, it sets up for a great heel turn, doesn't it?
Oh, he just punts the child?
Yeah.
Kicks him back?
Yeah.
Maybe this kid's going to be just follow him around and just constantly like nagging at him.
20-year build for when this kid ultimately becomes a next developmental talent.
It's a very weird segment. Rusev had a video. He's heard no response from Shane McMahon over his title match demand for Money in the Bank. He wants an answer, and he's coming to SmackDown next week. Orton, Styles, and Sami Zayn versus Jinder Mahal, Baron Corbin, and Kevin Owens. The entrances began with 30 minutes left, so you knew you were getting a lengthy finish to this show.
You're getting long entrances too, though.
Yeah, these entrances were significant too. Everyone got one. Orton tagged in, and Mahal immediately tagged out. So Owens was in. He avoided an RKO. At some point here, did you see where Sami Zayn got his nose bloodied?
No, I missed that.
They got the heat on Zayn. Owens was attacking him with a senton. Corbin then powers Zayn away from the corner. Finally makes the tag to AJ. Zayn returned, hit a Topicon Hero to the floor. The crowd was chanting and singing for Sami. The phenomenal forearm got stopped by Owens from the floor. So Mahal comes in with a rear chinlock to Styles, repeated stomps by Owens. And then Orton comes in, hit a draping DDT to Owens, sets up for the RKO, but the Singh brothers distract. Mahal hits Orton from behind. Zayn then hits Mahal with the Blue Thunder Bomb. Everyone came in. Corbin choke slammed into a backbreaker onto Zayn. Then there was a Pele kick to Corbin, an RKO to Owens, and it finished with Mahal hitting the Cobra Clutch Slam and pinning Randy Orton, and Mahal having his arm raised to end the show. Good 6-man.
Yeah.
Crowd was into it.
Good logical booking here. Mahal, I think, is the person that needs the most credibility amongst all of them. But when you watch him in a match like this, at least in ring, he certainly feels like the weakest. And I even put him behind Baron Corbin.
Way behind.
So the match with Orton at Backlash, I think he needs to have the best performance of his life if he wants to keep this push going.
I'm curious. That's why I feel if you're serious about this guy, don't put him in the position to have to close that show. Yeah. That crowd will turn on that match. I just watched this and listen, there's just a significant gap. You're right. He has to have the performance of a lifetime at Backlash. And I think putting him on last is just, you're adding issues to try and get this guy across. I don't have high hopes of this match.
The thing is, if you are going to do a title change, like I think there's a very good chance that you are, you need to end the show with that to give it that much more value. You know what I mean? You can't have a title change and have it be the semi-main event. I don't think, in my opinion.
So if they do that title change, what do you do with this Rusev storyline?
Oh, because he's demanding a title shot for the next pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I guess that kind of sets him up for the next one. Or they could just completely ignore it and say, Rusev, you don't get a title match the next pay-per-view. You need to earn that spot first, and then you get one, maybe the next one.
You could. That was SmackDown. I think it was I think if you look overall, it was probably a pretty average show. I didn't think, much like Raw, you got a ton of advancement, but this was such a better show than Raw that I think I significantly upgraded my view of this show. And the crowd was much more into it than they were Raw.
You could hear them better.
You could hear them better, yes.
Yeah. Not necessarily maybe more into it, but they were more audible. I thought it was, I'm with you. Maybe on paper just an average show, but I thought an overall enjoyable viewing experience, right? I thought all the competitors and all the storylines were moved along. The women's 3-on-3 is developing. Even Breezango and Usos are gaining some traction. And Nakamura.
I'm liking Ziggler's stuff. It's subtle, but you're right. Like these guys, I don't get the sense that they're this is a priority program. They're positioning Nakamura as a priority, but this actual feud, they're doing very little for it, and it's in their hands to get this across.
They don't need to do that much for it.
No, they shouldn't be.
It's very simple. But it's effective. You have Dolph Ziggler coming out saying, "What's the big deal about this guy?" And the guy just comes out, the crowd goes nuts. Done. Just get to the pay-per-view, get to the match.
This was way better than the Michael Jackson comedy. This is the direction they should be going in.
100%. And, in the main event, they put some momentum behind Ziggler heading into the show. So I don't have that much bad to say.
Talking Smack was weird. It was Renee Young and JBL who, they were in London.
JBL was, obviously. Yeah, and Renee as well, yes.
But all of the interviews were taped backstage.
Hold on a second. Do we know... Yeah, of course they couldn't have pre-taped this.
No.
Yeah.
Everything was in reference to the show, and JBL was there. And, I don't know why this was in the format it was. And I hope it was only a 1-week thing. I can't imagine them moving the format around because this was significantly worse.
No, I can't imagine either.
It was just largely a run-through of the show with taped interviews. One highlight for me was JBL saying Jinder has grabbed the brass ring that Vince McMahon talks about by getting his body in the best shape of his life. That is the brass ring.
Yeah, really.
And anyway.
So Cesaro just needs to work out harder? Is that it?
That's the problem.
He probably does. We kid, but let's say
Cesaro's in ridiculous shape.
He is, but I'm saying let's say all of a sudden Cesaro came back maybe 30 pounds heavier, packed more of muscle, and looking with veins popping out like Jinder. Vince might take a second look.
Cesaro's a really impressive physique already.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But Jinder was too, I would say.
Yeah, JBL also went on overdrive in praise for, as he called them at one point, the Usos and their promos, and that the Usos are on a different level than most talent on the roster. He just thinks that they are incredible. And we had a tape promo with Dasha with the Usos, who said they're not afraid of the rental cops, they're going to retain their titles, and now they're off to go enjoy the London nightlife, stealing Andrade's current storyline in NXT.
And then before saying that they weren't, they were just joking.
Oh, is that what they said at the end?
Yeah, they said that they were at the end of they're building up how great London must be, and then at the end they're just nah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I can't say I was all too focused on this edition of Talking Smack. Dasha then interviewed Mojo. He says he's trained with the trophy. It goes everywhere with him. Which is apparently not on TV for the last 2 months.
That's
1 month.
These are the behind the scenes vignettes I want to see is him trying to get through customs with that giant trophy.
Yeah.
He trains with it, he says.
He goes to the gym. Yeah, he does curls with it, I bet.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so funny.
The trophy is a reminder to utilize what people may think are your weaknesses and use them as strengths. Can't wait for that t-shirt to come out. JBL compares this to Owen having to carry 2 Slammies around or Davey Boy Smith traveling with a dog as a rib. And then he brought up how the kid kicking Mojo was like Houdini, who allowed people to come up and punch him, and he ended up dying from someone punching him in the stomach. And then said, I'm not trying to justify Mojo hitting a child. I don't want to say anything controversial. Although Ryan Ward, who's the head writer on SmackDown, has told me I can say whatever I want tonight.
You know, I did feel like JBL was more making references to non-kayfabe things on this show. He mentioned how, when talking about Nakamura and Ziggler, that as a heel, Dolph would love the reaction that Nakamura will get in Chicago, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, terms like that, I feel like they would have been a lot more careful with in weeks past, but maybe that upon this new direction, he's being told to, break down that.
My favorite JBLism was he was talking about Nakamura and Ziggler and said, you know, Chicago's a great city. I remember the old arena, the Allstate Arena. No, not the Allstate Arena, the Rosemont Horizon. And he talks about this venue, not realizing that the Rosemont Horizon was renamed the Allstate Arena. It's the same arena.
Yeah.
All these years. It's not a new venue. Anyway, Dasha was with Dolph backstage, and he says no one helped him get here. No one held his hand. He wasn't a second or third generation performer. Everything he has done is based on his talents. And he says, no catchphrases, no T-shirts. I didn't know what exactly, because it wasn't like this cohesive thought. But as he is saying no catchphrases and no T-shirts, he's literally wearing his own T-shirt. And he says, again, he's been here 8 years.
He does have a catchphrase, too.
Yeah, I guess he's going to
Show
steal
off.
the show.
Yeah,
yes. He's been here 8 years, feels like 12, and he ends by saying, it's too bad. It's too bad for Nakamura, and walks off. And that was it. This format sucked.
Of all the talking smacks, this might have been the most skippable. You know, just because you didn't even have the same element of people improvising on a set. I'm sure they were improvising maybe backstage in these Dasha interviews, but they were so short and just a different vibe.
What does that tell you? Because the way these interviews were conducted, that's how they do the television interviews.
Yeah.
And we're both agreeing they were completely ineffective and didn't have the same effect that Talking Smack does.
There's something very different to be said about. I mean, first of all, I think on TV they're giving bullet points probably a bit more, and I'm sure maybe in
more than bullet points for most.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Whereas on Talking Smack, I could buy that maybe a lot of these were somewhat improvised, but I'm also sure that maybe they were told what they were going to be asked beforehand and had some time to prepare whatever they said on this show. But I think there's also something to be said about maybe a sit-down environment versus standing up. Like, you've done plenty of interviews, and the vibe's different, wouldn't you say? When you're walking around with a microphone versus sitting at a desk with somebody?
Of course.
So, and again, we don't know how much is written for them and how much is improvised, but you could assume that on a Talking Smack, almost everything is slightly pretty much improvised, except for, there's bullet point storyline things. And you simply didn't get that with the quick little Dasha clips on this show.
205 Live, which I was looking forward to just because of what kind of reactions these guys would get from the audience, including one person tweeting me stating it was the best 205 Live ever that I was about to sit down and watch.
In terms of crowd reaction, there's an argument for it. I thought the crowd treated most of the matches a lot more favorably than their typical 205 Live crowd.
Well, I thought they especially came through in the opening segment. And you had Jack Gallagher coming out, chants of Jackie Boy, and the ring was set up with a red carpet, flags, and he referred to Theodore Jeeves Perkins, TJP for short. And he brought out Austin Aries.
What does TJ stand for? I wonder.
Look it up. Aries has to do, I guess he didn't have to do this, but opted to do a British accent saying, "Hello, London."
Wikipedia says it is Theodore James.
Theodore James.
That would be a way better heel name, wouldn't it?
Teddy James.
Theodore James Perkins. Imagine hearing that like 30 times on Raw.
Oh, God. You've got to say the middle name. I guess it would be. Anyway. Gallagher wants to toast Aries, and he gets 2 pints of beer. And Aries said he's more of a red wine guy, which got the most heat on this entire episode. Mm-hmm. And Gallagher starts singing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. Neville interrupts and caused Gallagher to jump from the pyro. And he says England has become a parody of itself. He's asked if they have lost their dignity. Aries calls him on the integrity for intentionally getting disqualified at Payback, says he likes England. They totally flipped the crowd on Neville. There was no issue with Neville being cheered in England. It was great. Neville says that this will be Aries' last appearance on 205 Live, and then TJP runs in to attack them. Neville joins in. Gallagher fights them off, but Neville turns him upside down into the barricade. Then Aries does the same to Neville and TJP, launches Neville over the announcer's desk. He cleared the desk. And then Gallagher sprayed beer from his mouth into the face of TJP, followed with a headbutt, and then the discus 5-arm was delivered to Neville. The babyfaces cheered. They drank the beer, including Aries chugging this thing full. And the crowd went nuts for these two. Yeah. I thought this segment was great.
Yeah, I would say outside of maybe some of his appearances on the Cruiserweight Classic, Jack Gallagher has never been more over than tonight. And maybe this was even more so than that. So, yeah, I thought they scripted Gallagher really well with this segment, and he did a great job performing in front of that crowd. And he and Aries seemed like, like actual main stars on this show.
Tony Nese and Mustafa Ali were up next. Ali hit the somersault dive to the floor.
Sorry, you missed the Rich Swann, Alicia Fox interaction in the back.
I was just going to skip it. Noam Dar and Alicia Fox met with Rich Swann in the back. Swann thinks that Dar is thinking with the wrong part of his body as he looks down. Fox said that she never really left Dar and would never leave a real man like him. And Dar says that Swann will get what he deserves. Yeah, that was it. Nese and Ali. Ali hit the somersault dive to the floor, and they cut to the back, and Drew Gulak was in shock watching this dive. Nese then tripped Ali, standing on the barricade, kicked him up onto his shoulders, and dropped him on a desk. Nese dropped him with a vertical onto the top rope, and then was using a torture rack, and hit a springboard into a quebrada. Top rope Hurricane Rana was blocked by Nese. He goes for a powerbomb, but it's turned into a Rana by Ali. Ali then made his comeback, rolling neckbreaker, Hurricane Rana off the apron to the floor, and Phillips says, "You can call it reckless, but it's really entertaining." And then Ali leaped off the turnbuckle into a tornado DDT, set up for the inverted 450, and hit it for the win. 10:45, pretty good match between these two.
Mm-hmm. And Gulak just has to act.
Look shocked. Look surprised. You've got 4 seconds in your cutaway. You are being flown to England for this reason.
I love seeing the acting on 205 Live. It's great. What's interesting is that, like, at one point, Nese starts doing some high flying. And so Tom asks if Drew Gulak would approve. So it kind of brings up an issue where now the opponents of a Mustafa Ali have to really watch how much high flying that they're doing, because why wouldn't Drew Gulak be on Tony Nese's case, you know?
Yeah, that's a completely valid criticism. And Graves almost has to play this role where he explained, it's like, I see both sides of the coin on this. Like, it does feel kind of jumbled. And yeah, like in this kind of a match, you shouldn't have Tony Nese contradicting the overall story just to get his own shine in the match.
Which is maybe a bit of an unfortunate limitation for any of Mustafa Ali's opponents.
But that's the story.
But you can also shift it in storyline where you can have Gulak specifically point out why he doesn't think Mustafa Ali should be doing the high flying, perhaps.
Arya Davari was backstage complaining about his Persian leather boots not being shined properly, and he's not going to pay this shoe shiner for his shoddy work. Then he bumps into Akira Tozawa, says, "My shirt cost $1,500 and came from Dubai." And Tozawa just did his war chant, and Davari left.
So 2 very simple, one-dimensional caricatures. You have the, I guess, the rich Middle Easterner and a guy who just grunts.
Who can't speak.
Yeah. So, but clearly, Tozawa's next program giving us hope that maybe this Kendrick thing is actually over after tonight.
No, after tonight, I don't think it is. They shot a big angle for it at the end. There was a Cedric Alexander returning soon promo, leaving, I guess, Rich Swann and Noam Dar, hoping he comes back soon.
Grand Metalik was also on the show yesterday, on Monday.
Yes. He was on. Was he on Main Event?
He was on Main Event. So he's been touring, but not appearing on TV yet.
Which is, I don't know what the holdup has been of just.
I'm sure it's just because they want to wait for him to actually have a storyline that they can spend time on before, But yeah, there's no better time.
He appeared once on the show. That was 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm. And they had nothing for him.
He might be the most talented guy on this show. Brian Kendrick and Akira Tozawa. That was the main event. Only 2 matches on this week's show.
3.
No.
Oh, you're right, 2, yeah.
There was a penalty kick to Kendrick. Then he did the war chant, goes for the dive, but Kendrick gets out of the way. And Kendrick hit the sliced bread on the floor. Tozawa broke the count, getting back in. Tozawa hit a Hurricane Rana, knocking Kendrick off the apron with a forearm, and then hit the suicide dive. His is the only suicide dive I really enjoy.
Tozawa's.
Yeah, because he looks like a torpedo going to the floor, and it's not the going at, a mile per hour to the floor suicide dive that no one cares about.
Like a mile per hour being slow?
Yes.
I don't. I drive in kilometers, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what my walking speed is like. It's at least 4.
They're all fast enough that...
No, they're not. Go watch a Dean Ambrose suicide dive, dude. Like, it makes it look like the most unimpressive maneuver.
Wait a second. Are we at the point now where the velocity of a suicide dive is something to be criticized? I still think it's enough of a physical feat that I'm still impressed. Even
okay, I want you to watch an Akira Tozawa and a Dean Ambrose suicide dive.
Oh, yeah. No, okay, yes.
And get back to me.
Tozawa is faster. Yes, he's also smaller. It helps. But I wouldn't tell other people to not do it.
I would. I hate suicide dives 99% of the time, and this is the 1%. I'm going to praise the 1%. Kendrick hit him with a kick, hit a dragon suplex, and it went for the captain's hook. Tozawa broke free, but then ran into an elbow. Tozawa tries to get the crowd going. They weren't all that into this up until now. Climbs to the top, misses with a senton to Kendrick, and Kendrick applies the captain's hook, but Tozawa has his fingers in between to alleviate the pressure and escapes. The sliced bread got countered with a roll-up by Tozawa, and Kendrick's reaching for the rope but can't reach it, and his shoulders get counted at 9:42. After the match, Kendrick goes after him, drives his lower back repeatedly into the steps, and then places the steps on top of Tozawa, kicks away at them as... Graves yells, "How far is too far?" Which in and of itself would be fine, but this is where I think it's right to criticize when you do such an extraordinary angle as that ambulance was fresh in my mind. So we can all watch one night and say, "Oh, this was great, it was fun," but what suffers are your subsequent angles. And this, to me, made this ridiculous in comparison when you have that.
Wait.
That immediately came to my mind.
Okay, wait a second, though. You're talking about Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, who are really immortals, okay? And then you're talking about Brian Kendrick and Akira Tozawa, who, come on, like, you breathe on them too hard, they'll probably fall down.
Yeah, this angle didn't get across to me, and it's just because I think you have trouble now doing normal injury angles when you do something that is so wild and over the top. You pay for it after.
I don't think you're wrong. For me, like I didn't even think it was in the same ballpark. I see one as kind of that sports entertainment, over the top, Austin driving the beer truck type of thing, and here, to me, this was more of a regular wrestling angle.
Well, it was designed to be the big angle to close the show. It was supposed to be a big injury to Tozawa.
I thought it was still effective, at least from the sounds of it, from the crowd. Like, anytime a guy even has a steel chair wrapped around a dude's ankle and steps on it, I still cringe at that, That's still effective to me. So, I can't say... I mean, I really hope the end of the feud is nearing. Here, at least we didn't get another Akira Tozawa lesson.
We're getting a stairs match.
They're not on the... are they doing...
Maybe at Extreme Rules, they're going to have a stairs match.
Oh, because they're Raw. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, very possible.
Which means another month if this go...
God,
I have a hard time imagining these two getting a singles match at a pay-per-view, even an individual branded one.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that they're promoting that Davari doing something with Akira Tozawa, hopefully it means the end of this sooner than later. But I can see Tozawa maybe getting at least one more week of a Kendrick thing.
Yeah, then they can move on to a Persian boot match.
Yeah.
That was 205 Live. Yeah, crowd better than just about every week that comes to mind. I don't know if it necessarily sustained all the way through.
Yeah.
I think that there was an opportunity. I mean, Jack Gallagher and Neville were used very well on this show. I feel you could have put Gallagher
last even.
If they had closed with that segment, I wouldn't have argued. Yeah. If you had gotten that kind of a reaction, if you had set it up in some kind of way, that was the peak of the show to the crowd.
Yep.
But yeah, the two good matches, and you had your main guys in that opening segment feel like stars for the first time.
You also have a few more pieces coming in. I mean, Arya Davari making his return. Also, Cedric Alexander is looking to come back. But overall, I would say I think a lot of these programs I'm ready to see wrap up. That being Akira Tozawa, Kendrick, and also Noam Dar and Cedric, Rich Swann. I don't have that much interest in that continuing either.
So that wraps up the WWE's 2 nights in London at the O2 Arena.
Yep.
And that's going to wrap up our show. So goodbye, everyone. We'll be back later this week with all of our usual shows. We've got What's Next and the MMA Report coming out Thursday. I am very much looking forward to the UFC card on Saturday. This is one of the best It is the best UFC card this year.
I am too.
Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier isn't even on the pay-per-view portion.
Wow.
And that's not to say, like, the main card, you've got Henry Cejudo, who just fought for the title last year against Sergio Pettis, Damian Maia and Jorge Masvidal, which sounds awesome. 2 championship fights. I can't wait for this UFC card.
I'm looking forward to this one. We don't have to actually work it. At least I don't.
No,
I don't know about you.
Neither do I.
So I get to actually go out and enjoy it at a bar or something. And just a quick plug talking about MMA. I was a guest this week on our friends Jimmy and James's MMA Complex show. So you can check that out. Just type in MMA Complex and you should be able to find it on YouTube, iTunes, anywhere else.
Cool. So check that out. I always love Wai Ting when he does the media circuit. He's very selective with his interviews. So it's a treat when we get to hear Wai outside of this
agent.
environment. Isn't that me?
Yes, sure.
All right. I wasn't interviewed by anyone, so you don't have anything to check out other than on this site. Friday, by the way, we will have Brian and Nate back with Keep It 2000 reviewing the March 13th, 2000 episode of Nitro with Sarah of Marty and Sarah fame from the MLW Network. She is going to be joining them. She had never watched any Nitro before this.
Wow.
So I'm curious to hear someone watching Nitro from 2000 for the first time. That's coming up Friday. And then The Law, Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe it will be the Briscoe brothers that we will have on the show chatting with Dan Lavransky this Sunday night, and also a big rundown of the UFC pay-per-view, Dave Meltzer, all that great stuff. LiveAudioWrestling.com is where you can go. iTunes, YouTube, and that's it. Goodbye.
SmackDown. Review SmackDown.